Yeah. Well, my first memories of Lumley is when we stayed with my auntie in Lumley Terrace, number 6. It's being carried upstairs and to go to bed, and passing the oil, not the oil lamp, but the gas lamps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
no electricity.
no electricity at all. So stayed with my auntie about 2 years, and then we moved to the Rookery in Lumley, which was a big old house. It's no longer there now. It's they've taken it down. Yeah, they're the bungalows, I believe. And there we had a ground floor flat, and yes, we just lived. I think we lived there for about 3 or 4 years, and I know it was 1947 when the big freeze in, because I remember all the snow was down there, and I don't think there are any photographs of the Rookery now. I haven't seen any, but that seems to have gone. Well, I mean, the Rookery was, as the name suggests, it was a lot of tall trees and rooks in there. So it was well named. And I remember on the corner, as you went in, there was a cottage which had a demolition order on it for many years. But I understand now it's being lived in. It's been done up.
Renovated the best one.
But yeah, the Rookery was a lovely place to grow up in, because it was right next to the fields, which you went over the back towards Thorney Road. You know, it joined up there. And in those days, you could seem to go anywhere. You weren't restricted on where you went. From there, when I went to school at Emsworth, at Washington Road, a lady from Lumley called Joan Lashley, she used to pick me up and take me to school. I think I was 4 and a half.
You started early.
Yeah. I think probably you did then, and then it tied up with 4 and a half in September. It was just about just about right. Yeah. And I remember we used to do our times table as we were walking along. Yeah. So it's friendship wise, had a good friend and a chap who lived in the next block of terraces from Lumley Terrace. It was Roy Bowles, and in fact we sort of stayed friends together until he died about 5 years ago. But we sort of did everything together. Also while I was at the Rookery, my auntie, or my uncle, was a sawyer. And he, on the edge of, I think they call it Peter's Pond, he had a sawmill. And so we used to help. It's a little triangular piece of ground just outside of the Rookery entrance. And he'd set up his saw there, and that was sort of run by a tractor or run by diesel on a belt. And he used to saw up logs.
Oh, a saw pit?
Yes, a big blade. Yes, but going back to the area itself, there were fields all the way around, and Lumley was quite a sort of remote place. You could play in the road, play in the stream, play everywhere. So it on moving from the Rookery, we moved into Palmer's Road. And the house, and I call it a house, it was an old chicken battery hut. It had 3 rooms, where my sister and I were in one room, my parents were in the other room, and then the other room was the lounge, kitchen, bathroom, because we had the bungalow bath outside. I don't know whether you know the area. It's right down the bottom of Palmer's Road. The number was 24, but it had a yard inside, and it was on the same line as the Southdown garages. And the person who owned it was Harry Stroud, and Harry Stroud owned the two fish and chip shops in Emsworth. So he rented that out, and then later on, I think he had gypsy connections, because we had two families moved into the yard, the Bonds and the Strudwicks, and so I had new playmates there, and we played along the riverbank in the river at the river end, and we also played a lot in Brook Meadow, which is now a conservation area or whatever. It's but
You must have had a marvelous childhood.
yeah, it was. But I was always had my wellies full of water. You know, we'd try to make rafts, but they never worked, and so we sort of played. That was generally our playground, was the River Ems.
Yeah.
You had to wade across, you know, so it was still, it wasn't stepping stones. So it was flowing quite well, and we'd walk back down to Seagull Lane on occasions, you know, and because we couldn't. It was quite difficult that way, because the gasometer was there, and you couldn't get into the grounds of the gasometer. So you walked along the bank, and either got stung or you got your feet wet. And so we used to play with that. Well, there wasn't a bridge then going across the river, but that was quite shallow at that point. So we used to get across quite easy. Some of the things that we used to do at Palmer's Road was, if I had to go shopping for Dad, I had to take the accumulators up to Furno and Riddle. They're like wet batteries, I think they're called. So you had to get them charged up for the radio.
Where the kebab shop is now.
Yes, yeah. So it. So that's how we. And I remember going off a bit about the rationing. You know, everything was on ration then, and I remember when the day the sweets came off ration, we instead of my parents buying the sweets and giving it to us, you know, giving some every day, we had pocket money and could buy our own. And the sweet shop was on North Street. I think it was where the bike shop is now. That was the sweet shop. And say further down was Harry Stroud's fish and chip shop. And I think all the fish and chips used to be fried in fat then, not oil. And so now and again we'd have a tub of dripping brought round, which was quite nice. But he also had another one in the square. I think it's probably where the Chinese restaurant is now. So one along there. So but another a character down here was Dickie Bates. I remember him being just next to this. Where is it? Petan's, or the bread shop is just.
Yes.
Then he moved across the road. Dingy little places, but it was all second-hand stuff that he had. I think there was I'm sure it was called Wheeler's, a fish shop, a wet fish shop, which was further along. I suppose where the entrance to where the road goes down there now. And I know there was Mrs. Caldwell, the greengrocer, and then opposite her was Lenham's of Furno Riddle. Then we had I think it probably it was either after Harry Stroud, but we had a coffee bar in North Street.
Did you?
And that's where we used to spend our evenings, in the coffee bar, listening to records. There was another one down in the square, the 45, but that's where the rougher element used to get down there, and we never went down there in case we got picked on. So, but my father, when he was made redundant from being a tailor, he used to work in the 45 from 9 till 12 at night, and so at the closing time, he had the hard job of getting rid of all the problem boys, as I suppose they were. But I think there were probably fights in Emsworth quite regularly, because the RAF were down at Thorney Island, and when they were in the village, then there usually was a bit of trouble. And of course, just further along from here, over there used to be the British Legion Hall. And I think, I don't know whether it's every week, but quite regularly there used to be dances there, and that's when the Air Force chaps came down and met with the Emsworth boys, and then there probably some fights. But British Legion, we've had happy times there with the Scouts. We used to have gang shows in there, and we used to pair up with Auntie Pat's School of Dancing, and so that was we had rehearsals at the base where we were, which is now the ECA, it was St James's School then.
Yes. Yeah.
It was we met. That was the first Emsworth Scouts. We met there, and then the Auntie Pat would bring her girls along, and we would practice the routines, as it were, or trying to get a nice partner. But those were good, and then I think it just went derelict for a while, and I think in the end it burnt down, the British Legion. So that was a sad end. First job, I think it was 56, because I moved from Washington Road School, and the school at Warblington was built, so I had about 6 to 9 months there before I was due to leave. And my father got me a job at Marsh's. Marsh's were based at North Street, right next to Furno Riddle. And so I spent the first 2 years of my apprenticeship in there, in the workshop, doing joinery. And then they sent me out to Beacon Square. They just acquired the land, Beacon Square, and Marshes were building on it. But prior to that, there was, I think it must have been called Valletta House, because we've got sent in there to remove the panelling inside the house, to save it or to use it somewhere else. And then they demolished the house, and then built Valletta Park and Beacon Square. Well, Beacon Square is quite a big The dearest house at the time was £5,000, and that was really a spec house which had a frontage leading right down to the foreshore. I think at the time they were building Selanga Avenue, and they were £1,000 each. So that £5,000 was quite a lot of money for there. So. 5 years, yeah, 5.
Indentured?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Oh, it was all about. It got me out of national service by 6 months, because when I finished my apprenticeship, national service had finished 6 months before. So I was so I didn't have to do that. But by that time, 56, I'd moved up to Stokely Road, which was I think they called it the French camp or the Free French camp up there during the war, and then they were building up there. I think it was Ward Crescent, Lewis Road, Racton Road. They were building those, and they were also started to build the ones in Stokely Road, which were Atterbury Avenue, Greville Green, and Allendale. Again, that was a lovely place to live, because there was fields all around.
This was before Spencer's Field, was
that
it?
Before Spencer's, and before the recreation ground was built. That was a field, and there were no bungalows there. From school we used to take a shortcut across the field, and didn't have to go up to the crossroads at Orndine Road and come round. So it. I went to work for Gregory Brothers at Emsworth. I stayed with him for about 18 months in the joiner's shop. He was quite a character. Very good governor of more of the old school. He treated everybody well. I went the short time I worked for Frank Jones in Gordon Road, is it? Just before we get into Southbourne.
Yes,
I think it's. I worked there for a while, and then I went on to a big firm in Portsmouth after that, and left the tools, as it were, and joined management. So I was a sort of site agent for them. But I did live in Emsworth for a while I was there. But then I got married, and then we moved to Waterville.